My name is Eliana Cole. I'm 34 years old. My life is logistics, concrete, and contracts. If a subcontractor doesn't show up, they don't get paid. If a structure isn't up to code, we tear it down. I don't do gray areas. I don't do maybe later. I build things that stand, and I have absolutely no tolerance for people who feel entitled to rewards they haven't earned. I own my house, a 4-bedroom place I bought 3 years ago after grinding through my 20s in steel-toed boots and reflective vests. It's my sanctuary, my quiet place, my one space where everything makes sense because everything inside it is something I paid for and maintained. My boyfriend Liam, 29, moved in 8 months ago. We'd been dating for 2 years before that, and I know exactly what you're thinking. If he was always like this, why did you stay? He wasn't. That's the problem. For the first 2 years, Liam was a completely different man. He worked as an executive assistant for a logistics firm. He was sharp, organized, and grounded. He managed calendars, negotiated with vendors, and prided himself on never missing a deadline. I respected that. We split dates 50-50 without me asking. Sometimes he'd insist on paying. He cooked, I cooked. I cleaned, he cleaned. There was no ledger of who did what. We just showed up for each other. It felt like a partnership. I remember thinking, this is what adult love looks like. 2 people carrying weight together. Then he moved in, and slowly the mask didn't just slip. He peeled it off and threw it in the trash. It started about 3 months after he brought his last box into my house. He becomes mutually separated from his job. That's how he described it. According to him, his new boss was abusive. The environment was toxic, and the corporate world didn't respect his potential. Being a supportive partner, I told him, okay, you have savings. I can cover the household bills for a month or 2 while you decompress and find something better. I thought I was investing in our future. I was actually financing my own replacement. Instead of looking for work, Liam fell down the algorithmic rabbit hole of high-value man, TikToks, and Instagram lives. You know the type. Men complaining about modern women, shouting into ring lights about feminine softness and masculine provision. He started talking like them too. If a woman has money, she should invest in her man so he can focus on his purpose, he'd say, eyes glued to his phone. You're the provider, babe. You're successful. It's not natural for me to be stressed about bills. My energy is too powerful for that. Meanwhile, I was coming home from 10-hour shifts covered in dust and sunburn, walking into what looked like a frat house after midterms. Takeout containers everywhere, laundry piled on the dining table, the sink overflowing with dishes that had been marinating there for days. And Liam? He'd be lounging on the sofa in a silk robe I bought him, scrolling through videos, earbuds in, a half-finished smoothie sweating on the coffee table. One night, about 3 weeks ago, I stood in the doorway of the living room and just watched him for a second. The glow from his phone lit up his face. He didn't notice me. Hey, I said finally, did you get around to calling that recruiter I sent you? He didn't look up. No, I'm focusing on regulating my nervous system right now. The corporate world is too aggressive for my energy. I swallowed, counted to 3. Okay, well, the dishwasher is full. Can you run it? He sighed like I'd asked him to carry cinder blocks up 3 flights of stairs. I didn't make that mess. I stared at him. Liam, there are 3 smoothie cups and a salad bowl in the sink. You absolutely made that mess. You're being really intense right now, he said, finally glancing at me. It's blocking my peace. I let it slide. That was my mistake. I ignored the red flag because I remembered the man he used to be. The one who would get up early to help me move lumber for a DIY project. The one who would iron his shirts the night before work. The one who used to say, we're a team. But last Tuesday, the final nail didn't just go in the coffin. It was hammered in with a sledgehammer. I walked in at 6:30 p.m. I was starving. The kitchen looked like a disaster zone after a small war. Empty takeout bags, sauce smeared on the counter, a blender crusted with something green and unidentifiable. Liam was sitting at the kitchen island with a stack of papers. My mail. Specifically, my credit card statement. I had added him as an authorized user months ago, for groceries and house emergencies only. A convenience. A gesture of trust. We need to talk, he said. His tone wasn't apologetic. It was authoritative. I dropped my keys on the counter and picked up the statement. The balance was $4,800. For 1 month. My stomach went cold. Nordstrom, $600. Grooming and spa services, $800. Sephora, $450. Daily food delivery, multiple times a day. Random coaching charges from high-value man webinars. What is this? I asked. My voice came out low, too calm. He folded his arms, leaned back on the bar stool, and tilted his chin up. I needed to invest in myself. Being in this house alone all day is draining. I needed self-care to maintain my appearance and my vibe. For you. For us. Draining? I laughed once, a harsh sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me. You don't work. You don't pay rent. You don't pay utilities. You don't cook. You don't clean. What exactly is draining you, Liam? He looked me dead in the eye and recited it like a script he'd been rehearsing. I don't cook or clean, Eliana. Expecting me to be some kind of domestic servant just because I live here is internalized patriarchy. I bring masculine energy to this house. My presence is the value. Your job, as the woman with resources, is to provide. You need to pay this debt and raise the limit on the card because you're the provider. That's your biological role. The silence stretched for 10 full seconds. In that silence, I realized I wasn't looking at my partner anymore. I was looking at a squatter who saw me as an ATM with a pulse. So, I said slowly, if I want a traditional man who doesn't work, I have to be the traditional provider who pays for everything without question? Exactly. He smiled, thinking he had finally gotten through to me. I'm glad you finally get it. It's about polarity. You're right, I said. I haven't been playing my role correctly. I need to provide. His smile widened. I walked past him into my home office. I heard him hum lightly, probably imagining a credit limit increase and maybe a new gaming console. I unlocked my filing cabinet. I own a small rental property across town, so I keep legal forms handy. Leases, notices, receipts. My fingers closed around a standard notice to quit form. In my state, if someone lives in your home without a formal lease but receives mail there, they're a tenant at will. You can't just throw them out without risking an illegal eviction lawsuit. You have to give them 30 days in writing. I filled it out on my desk. Date, name, address, termination of tenancy in 30 days. Then I walked back into the kitchen and placed the paper on top of the credit card statement. What's this? He asked, frowning. That, I said, cracking open a seltzer, is me providing. He blinked. Providing what? I am providing you with a 30-day notice to vacate my property. I am providing you with a reality check. And I am providing you with the opportunity to find another woman who will tolerate this, because I won't. His jaw dropped. You can't do this. I'm your boyfriend. Not anymore, I said. Now you're an unwanted tenant. He sputtered. You're overreacting. You're being abusive. I pulled out my phone and opened the app for the Maid service I'd been paying for twice a month. A luxury I liked, and one he benefited from. I'm also canceling the cleaning service, I added, tapping the screen. Why? He snapped. You know I don't clean. I do, I said. You told me expecting you to clean is internalized patriarchy. I don't want to oppress you, so I'm removing the paid help. You can clean up your own mess or live in filth for the next 30 days, but I'm not paying another woman to clean up after an unemployed man who lounges on my couch all day. Then I opened my banking app. This credit card, I said, holding the statement up, the one you use to invest in your vibe. I tapped remove authorized user. Card is dead. His face drained. How am I supposed to eat? You have all that masculine energy, I said, walking toward the living room. I'm sure you can trade it for a sandwich. I paused, looked back. Or here's a radical thought, Liam. Get a job. I sat on my own sofa, turned on my own TV, and turned the volume up while he stood there in the kitchen, speechless. He thought the war had just begun. He had no idea I'd already decided how it ended. If you thought the notice to quit and the canceled card would send Liam packing with some dignity, you don't understand how deep online delusion can go. We were 5 days into the 30-day notice when the flying monkeys arrived. The first one came disguised as a ringtone. I was on a job site, standing in front of a concrete pour, double-checking the rebar placement, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name on the screen. Linda, Liam's mother. I stepped away from the noise, into the shadow of a half-framed wall, and answered. Eliana speaking. Her voice came through sharp and already offended. I am hearing very disturbing things about how you're treating my son. No hello? Of course. Is it the part where he spent nearly $5,000 in a month on my credit card, I asked, or the part where he refuses to wash a spoon? He is trying to find himself, she snapped. You are being financially abusive, cutting off his resources, threatening to make him homeless. You're a woman, Eliana. You have a duty to support your man. I stared at the skeleton of the building rising around me, at beams and bolts and things that actually held weight. I am protecting myself, I said. He isn't my husband. He isn't the father of my children. He is a roommate who stopped paying his share of the emotional rent. He has 25 days left. If he stays past that, I file a formal eviction with the sheriff. Goodbye, Linda. You can't. I hung up and blocked her number. When I got home that evening, the house was dark. Liam sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, hood pulled up, the glow of his phone gone. No music, no TV, just him, glaring at me like I'd personally turned off the sun. The Wi-Fi isn't working, he said. I know, I replied, kicking off my boots. I changed the password. His mouth fell open. Give it to me. I need it. No, I said, heading for the fridge. Internet costs $80 a month. Providers pay for things. I'm providing internet for myself. Since you aren't contributing, you don't get the bandwidth. I needed to look for jobs, he lied. You have a phone with a data plan, I pointed out, grabbing a bottle of water. Use that. Or go to the public library. It's free, and it even has chairs. He threw a throw pillow at me. It hit my shoulder and fell to the floor. Wow, I said, picking it up and setting it aside. Big masculine energy move. The next phase was predictable. Weaponized incompetence. He started leaving his mess everywhere, deliberately. Half-eaten yogurt cups sweating on the coffee table. Wet towels dropped in the hallway, slowly warping the hardwood. Hair products and beard trimmings smeared across the bathroom counter like some kind of sticky abstract art. He thought it would break me. He knows I hate a dirty house. He thought I would clean to keep the peace like I used to. He forgot I work in construction. I have eaten lunch in trailers that smelled like paint thinner and dust. I have used portable toilets in August. His mess was amateur hour. I didn't clean it. I collected it. Every dirty plate, every wet towel, every sticky cup, every random sock, every single item he left out. I picked up and placed neatly on his side of the bed in the master bedroom. I moved my clothes and essentials into the guest room, shut the door, and installed a keypad lock. Around midnight, from down the hall, I heard the scream. Are you insane? He yelled, pounding on my locked door. Eliana, what is wrong with you? Internalized patriarchy, I called back. I didn't want to oppress you by cleaning your mess. I'm respecting your autonomy. He cursed, loud and ugly. I rolled onto my side and slept like a baby. The next day, he tried food. More specifically, he tried the I'm starving and it's your fault tactic. I was in the garage working on my motorcycle, grease on my hands, when he stormed in holding his phone. You embarrassed me, he snapped. I didn't look up. Hi, Liam, did you get a job? The Uber Eats order declined, he shouted. The driver is outside. The payment failed. Sounds like a personal problem, I said, tightening a bolt. Pay for it, he demanded. It's $30. I'm starving. There's a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter in the pantry, I said. I bought them. You're welcome to them. I don't want peanut butter. Then get a job, I replied. He actually stomped his foot. A 29-year-old man, stomping in my garage like a toddler denied a toy. The clock ticked on. 25 days. 24. He didn't pack a single box. On day 20, I came home to a strange car in my driveway. A BMW. White. Shiny. The kind of car that screams, I make decisions on vibes, not budgeting. I parked on the street and walked into my own house. Liam was sitting at the dining table with a woman I had never met. Dark hair, sharp glasses, blazer, tablet open in front of her. She looked like she'd watched just enough legal dramas to be dangerous. Eliana, this is Sarah, Liam said, looking triumphant. She's a tenant rights advocate and a friend of a friend. The name hit me first. Sarah, his ex. The one he once described as crazy, obsessed, unable to move on. Right now, she looked very moved on and very interested in my dining room. Ma'am, she said, in a voice dripping with condescension, you are creating a hostile living environment. I set my keys down. Is that so? I said. Yes, she continued, cutting off internet access, restricting funds, emotional intimidation. That is constructive eviction. Illegal. We could file a complaint. I looked at Liam. He was trying not to smirk. He had brought backup. Backup who happened to be the ex he swore was a nightmare. Interesting. Constructive eviction, I repeated. Okay. Did I change the locks? Sarah blinked. No, but did I turn off the water, the electricity, the heat? Well, no, but internet is not a required utility in this state, I said calmly. It's a luxury, and as for funds, it's my money. Liam isn't my spouse. I'm not obligated to financially support an adult who refuses to work. Her smug expression faltered for a split second. You can't just kick him out, she insisted. He has established residency. He has rights. Which is why, I said, opening a nearby drawer and pulling out my copy, I gave him a 30-day notice to quit. in writing, in accordance with state law. Here's the time-stamped video of me handing it to him, and here's his text acknowledging receipt. I slid my phone across the table. Sarah stared at the evidence, her mouth pressed into a thin line. We are going to file a complaint, she tried again, voice weaker now. This is still a toxic environment. You do that, I said. Now, Sarah, unless you are on the deed, which you aren't, you are trespassing. Get out. Her head snapped up. I am her guest, she said, gesturing at Liam. He lives here. He can invite me. I am the sole property owner, I said, taking a step closer. As the owner, I control who has license to remain on the premises. I am revoking yours. You are no longer a guest. You are an intruder. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the sheriff's department. You can't. I pulled out my phone and dialed the non-emergency line on speaker. Hi, this is Eliana at... I gave the address. I have an individual in my home who has been told to leave and is refusing. She is not on the deed and has no lease. Sarah stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. We're leaving, she hissed at Liam. No, I said coolly. Sarah is leaving. Liam, you live here for 20 more days. You stay. Sarah, goodbye. She grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. Liam glared at me like I'd slapped him. This isn't over, he said. No, I agreed, but your rent-free lifestyle is. That night, he locked himself in the master bedroom. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of him pacing. Somewhere between his anger and his fear, I heard something else. The beginning of panic. Because for the first time since he moved in, he was facing a world where he couldn't twist my empathy into a paycheck. He would push harder. I knew that. I also knew something he didn't. I had already decided I wouldn't break. The shift happened on day 15. Up until then, Liam's delusion was loud. Complaints, accusations, theatrics, meltdown-level stomping. But somewhere around the halfway mark, the tone changed. He got quieter. Not humbled, strategizing. Quiet for people like Liam is never a good sign. I didn't realize how dangerous that silence was until I walked into the living room after work and felt something wrong in the house. It was too empty, too still. My stomach tightened. The TV was gone. My 65-inch OLED, the one I bought 3 years before I even met him, had vanished from the wall. All that remained was the mount, hanging like a skeleton. I didn't call out for him, didn't ask where it went, didn't yell. I just stood there, letting the picture settle fully into my mind. Theft wasn't passive incompetence. Theft was escalation. Theft meant he'd crossed from delusion into weaponry. I found him in the master bedroom. He was stuffing clothes into a duffel bag, calm like he was packing for a weekend trip. Where's my TV? I asked. He didn't look at me, didn't stop folding. I sold it, he said casually. I needed cash since you cut me off. My pulse didn't jump, my voice didn't rise. You sold my property. He shrugged. It's community property. We live together. We aren't married. Doesn't matter, he said, zipping the bag. I contributed emotionally. That's value. Emotional labor is real labor. I'm entitled to compensation. I stared at him. He genuinely believed this. This wasn't a bluff. This man had convinced himself that being manipulative, messy, unemployed, and draining gave him the right to pawn something I owned outright. Liam, I said slowly, that is felony grand theft. He smirked. You're not going to turn me in. I didn't reply. I turned around, walked out of the house, got in my truck, and drove straight to the police station. Inside, I filed a report with calm precision. Receipt of the TV with my name and card number. Photo dated 3 years before we even started dating. Screenshots of texts. His admission. The officer, mid-30s, tired eyes, read the text message where Liam wrote, I sold it, and shook his head. He really admitted it in writing, he said. Oh, he believes he's entitled, I replied. The officer looked at me with a level of empathy that only comes from seeing too many situations like this. We'll escort you back, he said. He'll have to buy it back immediately, or we arrest him. When we pulled into my driveway with 2 patrol cars behind me, I felt the quiet shift again. This was a point of no return. Liam opened the door when they knocked. The moment he saw uniforms, his entire body stiffened. Ma'am, the officer said, did you remove the television set from this residence? It's ours, he said, voice cracking. We live together. The officer raised an eyebrow. Do you have a receipt showing you purchased it? Liam blinked. Well, no, but... I have the original receipt, I said, handing it over, and evidence of his written admission of sale. The officer turned back to Liam. This is theft over $1,000. This is a felony. Your options are, 1, you accompany us to the station. 2, You get in your car, go to the pawn shop, and buy it back immediately. Liam went pale. His bravado melted into something small and wet and panicked. I spent some of the money, he whispered. Then you better call someone who loves you, I said quietly, and get the rest. He called his mother. Linda screamed at me through the speaker, blaming me for everything, insisting he'd done nothing wrong. But she transferred the money. Liam got in the police cruiser. They drove to the pawn shop. He bought the TV back. The officers watched him carry it inside like a child forced to return a stolen cookie. Once the police left, Liam put the TV down and stood in the middle of the room, eyes shining with anger and humiliation. One more item goes missing, I said, and I won't give you the chance to buy it back. I installed a camera in the living room that night, not hidden, visible, a reminder. He retreated to the master bedroom and locked the door. I moved entirely into the guest room and locked mine too. Two strangers living in the same house, separated by anger, silence, and legal boundaries. 18 days left. That week, Liam unraveled. Not loudly, slowly. He kept trying to reach out to people. Friends, online influencers, even Sarah. But people don't like being associated with police reports. Even delusional communities have limits. I began hearing him pacing at night, walking through the halls while I lay in bed listening through the door, doors opening and closing, whispers, his voice cracking when he thought no one could hear. Some nights he slept on the couch. Some nights I heard him cry quietly, muffled under blankets. But even then, he wouldn't pack. I knew why. Packing means accepting the end. Liam wasn't ready for that, not until reality marched up to our front door and forced him to face it. Day 16, he tried one last angle, pity. He sat at the kitchen island looking hollow, unshaven, wearing the same hoodie 3 days in a row. When I walked in, he said softly, "Eliana, can we talk?" "If it's about extending the 30 days... "It's not," he said quickly. I got a job." That made me pause. "A job?" I echoed. He nodded, eyes damp. "Customer service, a call center, $15 an hour. I hate it, but I'm trying." I studied him for a moment. His shoulders were slumped, his voice unsteady, the arrogance stripped away. For a split second, I saw the man he used to be, the one I fell for. But then I remembered the $4,800 debt, the entitlement, the refusal to clean, the TV theft, the ex in my dining room. The accusations of patriarchy abuse. The way he screamed that I was the problem. And the softness inside me hardened again. "It's not enough to afford an apartment," he said quietly. "First month, last month, security deposit. I can't do it. Please, Ellie, let me stay. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll pay rent. Just let me stay." For a moment, the kitchen was silent. Then I said it. "You're not humbling yourself, Liam. You're desperate, and there's a difference." He flinched. "If I let you stay," I continued, "in 2 months you'll quit this job. You'll be on the couch again, telling me I'm toxic for asking you to rinse a dish. Nothing has changed. You're not sorry. You're scared." He sank into the stool, eyes glossy. "I love you," he whispered. "No," I said softly. "You love the lifestyle I provided." He broke then, fully, crying into his hands. I didn't comfort him. I went to the guest room and closed the door. The war was nearly over. 5 days left. 5 days left. By then, the house felt like two worlds forced under one roof. His, unraveling by the hour, and mine, steady as steel. Every morning before work, I could hear Liam moving around like a ghost in the kitchen, opening and closing cabinets, sighing loudly, hoping I'd emerge and ask if he was okay. I didn't. I learned something important. Attention was his oxygen. Starve it, and he ran out of fuel. Still, on the 5th to last day, he made one more last-ditch attempt to rewrite the ending. I came home late that Friday, exhausted from a 14-hour shift dealing with a subcontractor who'd poured concrete in temperatures too low for it to cure. All I wanted was a shower, a meal, and silence. Instead, I found Liam sitting at the edge of the dining table, shoulders hunched, eyes red, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie 2 sizes too big. His hair was messy, his voice was small. "Eliana, can we talk?" I didn't sit. "If it's about staying..." "It's not," he blurted. I need to say something." I waited. He stood up, gripping the back of the chair like he needed it to stay upright. His voice cracked on the first word. "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. "You were right," he said, wiping his eyes. "About everything. I got sucked into those videos. They made me feel important. Like I deserved more. Like I didn't have to work for it. Like men like me were owed something." He paused, shaking his head. "But I wasn't owed anything. I was just lazy, entitled, and stupid. You didn't deserve any of that. He looked up at me then, eyes full of regret and fear and that familiar softness he used to have. I got a second job, he whispered. A part-time one, nights. It still won't be enough for a place yet, but I'm trying, Eliana. I'm trying so hard. I believed him, for a moment. But belief doesn't repair damage. Effort doesn't erase patterns. And desperation isn't transformation. He stepped closer. If you just give me more time, he said, voice trembling, I'll prove it to you. I'll clean. I'll cook. I'll pay rent. I'll be the man I used to be. I swear. Just don't make me leave, please. I took a breath. Liam, I said quietly, you are not humbling yourself. You're drowning. He froze. And you're asking me to be the life raft. But the moment the water calms, you'll stop paddling and climb right back on top of me. That's how it works with you. That's how it's always worked. He swallowed. That's not fair. It's the truth. Tears streamed down his face. Eliana, I love you. No, I said softly. You love the lifestyle, and you love the version of me who saved you. Not the version who expects you to stand on your own. His knees buckled. He actually fell to the floor, gripping my jeans like a child, sobbing into my thigh. Please, he begged. Please don't make me go. I don't have anywhere. I gently stepped back. His hand slipped off my leg. I can't live with a man I don't respect, I said. And Liam, I don't respect you anymore. He let out a sound, half sob, half scream, that made the hair on my arms rise. But I didn't stay. I didn't argue. I didn't explain more. I went to the guest room, shut the door, and let the silence swallow the rest. Moving day came sooner than either of us expected. Technically, he had until the next morning, but he found a room, barely. A shared house with 4 other men, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen that looked like a crime scene. It was the only place he could afford. He dragged his things into garbage bags because he hadn't saved enough for suitcases. Designer clothes he bought with my money stuffed into plastic like trash. His high-value man robe jammed in last like a defeated flag. He tried to take my Dyson vacuum. Nope, I said, stepping into the doorway. You don't need it. You don't clean. Your words, not mine. He glared but set it down. When everything was finally loaded into the back of a rideshare, he stood in the doorway one last time. His eyes were hollow. His jaw was tight. He needed a final punchline, a final wound to throw my way. You're going to regret this, he said. You threw away a good man. You'll die alone with your money. I smiled faintly. I'd rather die alone with my peace, I said, than live broke with a parasite. He sputtered. You're heartless. No, I replied, just done. He hesitated, then threw the key into the bushes like a toddler pitching a toy. I didn't care. I'd already changed the digital lock code. The door closed with a soft click. And just like that, the house exhaled for the first time in months. 6 months later, my home is quiet, clean, steady. Without Liam eating through my finances, my utilities, my groceries, and my sanity, I've saved about $15,000, enough to take a real vacation, enough to breathe. I bought a new motorcycle, cherry red, a gift to myself for finally reclaiming my life. I hired my cleaning service back, twice a month, sparkling floors, fresh sheets, everything smelling like citrus and relief. And I met someone. His name is David. He's a nurse with kind eyes and a laugh that fills a room. On our first date, the waiter brought the check and David reached for it. I can get this, he said. When I insisted on paying, he didn't flinch or argue. He just smiled and said, okay, next time's mine. No speeches, no entitlement, no masculine energy nonsense. Just a good, grounded man who carries his own weight. It was almost disorienting how simple it felt. Meanwhile, Liam? Small towns love gossip, and Liam made sure they were fed. He lasted 3 weeks at the call center. His manager asked him to stop scrolling on his phone. Liam called it microaggression and quit immediately. He lasted a month in the shared house before getting kicked out for eating other people's food and not paying rent. He is currently living with his older sister, who, ironically, is almost exactly like him. They fight constantly because neither of them wants to clean or cook. It would be funny if it weren't so sad. Last week he texted me, "Hey, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I was immature. I miss you. Can we get coffee?" I didn't reply. I screenshotted the message, printed it out, and pinned it to the corkboard in my garage next to my new bike. A daily reminder. A trophy in a way, not of revenge, of freedom, of choosing myself.